This is the Town of Raymond Budget Finance Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I would like to remind members that there is a level of decorum that is expected, and that we will be respectful of town employees, and that we won't call out town employees by name. So are there any questions about that? Everybody good with that? Okay. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting on December 18, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So approved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
I do. I have two things. Number 6, discussion of the rec department facilities. Says committee members discussed their concerns that the change came about quickly. I'd really just like to have it added that it was without input from the Budget Finance Committee. So again, with that first line, committee members discussed their concern that the change came about quickly. I'd really like to have added that it was without the input from the Budget Finance Committee. That was really what our problem was.
Okay. Is the motion to approve the minutes with the amendment to add without the input from the Budget Finance Committee?
Yes.
I've got one more thing too,
Okay.
if that's okay. There's nothing in our conversation about the concerns that the chair of the selectmen is a deacon of that church. We did discuss that, and I would really like to have that added as well as part of our minutes.
Okay, was that discussed at the meeting in December? Was that part
That's
of
right,
the
7:07 p.m. There's conversation about it.
Okay.
It's not reflected anywhere in the minutes, though.
Okay, well, the video recording is the official recording minutes of the meeting, and so if it was discussed in the meeting and it's in the video, then I think we should just let that stand.
It's good enough? Okay.
Okay, so the motion is still to approve the minutes as amended in section 6 without the input from the Budget Finance Committee. And it's been seconded, so all in favor? Okay. It's approved. Any opposed? Are you voting?
I'm abstaining.
You're
I wasn't
abstaining?
here.
Okay. So the motion passes. Oh, and I didn't get a vote from Dawn. I'm sorry. Dawn, how did you vote on the minutes? In favor?
You muted.
You muted, Dawn?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
All right, I didn't know if I was supposed to do that or not. I'm usually not on this side of things, I guess.
So do you vote in favor of the minutes,
I do.
the motion of the minutes to pass with the amendment? Okay.
I do.
All right, thank you. So it's 4 out of 6. So the motion carries. Next on the agenda is discussion on the expense and revenue summary report through January 31st. And we had some questions which were sent to the finance director, who responded this afternoon. Are there any other points of discussion that the members would like to discuss?
Yes, I have one. I'm looking at our last expense report summary from December. And one of the things that jumped out at me is line 3310 CEO fee. Year to date in December was $132,000. And year-to-date this month, and we're receiving it is 91,000. So did you give somebody a huge refund?
No.
Okay.
I had the same concern. The budgeted amount was 200,000. As of 12/4/24, the number that we got in our worksheet from the finance director was 132.6. And according to my numbers, and verified by the assistant to the finance director, we've brought in to date 152,333.03. So that really doesn't reflect accurately the year-to-date or the percent of what we brought in. So I would like clarification on that, if we could get it.
Certainly. The payments that came through electronically were duplicated. So when I had to correct those and back them back out, you can't change year-to-date or any of those other fallout numbers. Once you've made an adjustment in Trio, it doesn't let you go back in time. So you have to look at what's been expended, or excuse me, what you've received year-to-date and your budget.
So can you confirm those numbers that I got on 12/4/24 and what I received for up-to-date of the 152,333? Are those accurate? I mean, it
So
doesn't
you
reflect
said
it
you
in the...
already-
What's that?
You said you confirmed the accuracy of that information with the assistant already, correct?
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're good with those numbers?
I'm good with them now. I told you I had to make a correction. That's why what you saw before is different from what you're seeing right now.
Okay.
I also have a question on property taxes. So we're showing an additional $1 million of revenue. But also, I'm curious because when I pay my mortgage, the taxes get escrowed into that, and then I don't believe they come out until April, so when I think they get paid to the
Okay,
town.
I think you'll have to forgive me because I'm having a really difficult time talking right now. The tax section 10-3110 was, the taxes from last year were added at the beginning of the year, okay? That was incorrect, so I had to back that out. Then there was an adjustment made into that account by the assessor once that warrant was passed. Then that had to be reversed. Once you make corrections to that account, like I said in the last statement to Chris, once you make an adjustment, Trio doesn't let you go back and fix your year-to-date. It just keeps adding on to it. So it becomes a collection of activity, not just what you want it to see. I can't undo what the year-to-date is. I can't make it right now. But more to the point, when you pay your taxes, they don't go into this account. This has, the 10-3110 has nothing to do with tax collection. That's not where those revenues are going. They're going in another area of the ledger. They don't go in that account. So you can't look at that account as a means of collection. So when the ladies out front take those revenues in and post them to the ledger, they don't go there. That's not the location where they're collected. We have to run a separate report for that from the tax office.
So in the future, could we get a copy of that report so that we can see where the money goes?
Absolutely.
You know, because this is very confusing for us. If we're looking at these numbers and it's showing us, we've got at the bottom line of
You mean
revenues.
see where it goes, or
Excuse me? I didn't hear what you said.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
Okay.
I'm listening.
So it's just confusing to us, or me personally, that, it's showing a $1 million surplus in revenue already, and that's very confusing if we're trying to use this document to gauge where we're at this time of the year. So we need
And,
some kind of report. If this report doesn't work, then can we come up with some report that does, is what I'm asking.
Yep, and I've been working on that since I accepted this position. There is not one aspect, and I am going to say this, there's not one aspect of this general ledger that has functioned properly since I came on board, other than the expense accounts. I've spent months trying to correct all the errors in this ledger, which is why you have, it's my understanding that this has always been a problem, that there's always been an issue trying to get good reporting out of the ledger, and a lot of it has to do with the way it was structured. So back in the beginning, when this ledger was first built, it operated very well. It worked correctly, because I actually have gone back to the beginning in, I believe it was like 2016, when TRIO was first introduced to the town. And I went back into those reports, and they look beautiful. And it went like that for many years, actually. And then something happened at some point. Somebody went in and started changing the way that the ledger works. I don't know when. I don't have an exact date, and I'm not going to even try to guess. But at some point, it was basically broken. And I've spent the first 6 months of my time with you trying to repair it with the assistance of the auditors. And the other thing too, and I want everyone to be aware of this, is that the last audit, there was a letter sent in to the managers that was supposed to be given to you folks and the Board of Selectmen, and it was never done, explaining that there were issues. That letter disappeared. I did ask the current auditor to please send me a copy, and I did receive that copy back from the auditor, because I was trying to understand how in the heck could this have been like this for this long and the auditors not know. Well, they did know, and they also told you, but you didn't know. So for years, these different idiosyncrasies have been going on. I don't know why all of a sudden I'm here and everyone's confused, because this was already like this when I started. At the beginning of the year, when you have that account number 10-3110, nothing is supposed to be in that except whatever the assessor, once he gets the warrant cleared for how many taxes you need to collect, that's the only number that's supposed to go in there, except for your betterment and any like supplemental taxation number, just like the bottom line numbers are supposed to go in there. You're not supposed to see activity from the ladies as they collect the taxes. But I can get you something else if that's what you want. This is the first that you've said it to me, and I can get that for you after the meeting, not right now, but I can get it for you and send it to you through email.
So I've got a question. This is not grilling you. You're helping us understand what's going on with this.
No, I don't mind.
Okay, so going back to
I'm just. Go ahead.
going back to December, with the amount for the CEO fee year to date was 132, and now it's 91, so it's less. Did you say that you can't go in and change it? I didn't quite.
No, I backed out the revenue. I duplicated the assistant's work, and then I had to back it out. I didn't know she already had recorded everything. So it was basically duplicated, and that was my fault. And I had to go in and reverse what I did. So that's why it looked like more before than it is now. That was my mistake.
Right, I'm not. My question is about you're able to.
But I can't go into TRIO though and tell it to change like the year to date, because every time you make an entry in the ledger, because of audit, you can't like go and say, oh, I don't want that to show. I just want this to show. You can't decide what you see and what you don't. Trio won't allow it. There's fail-safes in the system for that. So it's kind of like you make a mistake and it's going to be there, and you're going to be able to, you have to be able to trace back what the error was. So if I was to pull up this account and we went through it piece by piece, you'd see what I did wrong, and then you'd see my correction. And that's actually the right way to see it. I don't know of any other way to clear that out. I've talked to a Trio expert, and she told me that it's not a possibility. So you can look at what you have for, if you look at the column on the right where it says balance, and the column where it says budget, those two reflect correctly, except for the 103110. I still have to find out how to fix that, because if you'll see in that column where it says budget for the property tax, it says 17,623,560. That should have never been put there at the beginning of the year. When you start the beginning of the year, that should be zero, the budget, because you don't know what it is until it's been approved through your process.
Commitment.
And then once the assessor goes in and he posts it, that number should be the 18. So I don't know how, I'm still working on trying to fix that. There's been so much done in there. There was also some write-offs. We had a few tax write-offs, small little amounts that were taking place in that account. I had to back all those out because they had to get posted to what they a write-off account. So I talked to the auditor about that, and I did set up an account. It's new, and it's for those small amounts that need to be written off. And that could be anything like $15 because a vehicle no longer exists and it's on their tax polls. We're never going to collect it, so they need to write it off. So now those have been moved out, so that part of it's clean. I have to figure out what else to do here to make this right. For some reason, when that budget number came over, I cannot get it to stop showing up on this report. It's really driving me bananas, I'll be honest with you.
So what about one that's a little bit easier that we might be able to understand a little better? 3121 auto excise. We have a budgeted number, and then our year-to-date,
Yep.
it's $740,000 more. Can you speak on kind of what's going on with?
Because in the beginning of the year, someone put this 122 in the system as your starting number, and it's not correct. I had to go in and add what the remaining amount. There was a zero missing from that number, and that was posted in July sometime. So it's, like I said, I had to go in and make a correction, so now it's going to show up in all the activity in the middle. But if you look at the end, it shows you on the balance what's been collected. But the budget amount is incorrect. It should have never came over that way.
I'm not sure of the correct protocol here. I don't know if somebody's moderating this meeting. As I said, I'm not on this side very often, but I've had my hand up, and I'm wondering if it would make sense to have the auditor come in and speak to the Budget Finance Committee. I mean, it seems like it's just one problem after another problem, and you're talking about an inability to make some serious changes and reconcile past actions, and I'm very concerned, and I've been gone now, it'll be 2 years, I guess, in April, but I don't recall these kinds of problems over the time I was there, and I don't recall this happening last year, actually.
Well, sir, with all due respect, sir, these problems existed when you were there, and let's have the auditor come in and talk about it. And I think you're implying that I withheld a letter from the
Right.
selectmen.
I did not say that.
You're implying that.
Didn't say that at all.
Excuse me, please wait to be called on. We're not going to have any back and forth.
So anyway, I don't know who you're saying didn't provide the management the annual management letter? Is that what you're saying? Somebody didn't provide that to the Board of Selectmen and/or Budget Finance Committee?
Correct.
And are you saying that's me?
No?
Don, I would just caution everyone here. We're not going to have this back and forth. So
Well, I think
can
we're talking
you
about
pose the question
pretty
through the
serious-
chair? Can you pose the
We're
question
talking
through
about
the
pretty-
chair?
We're talking about pretty serious, I don't want to use the word allegations, but issues, talking about pretty serious issues about the budget and how it is structured, managed, and, you know, the auditors have a number of concerns allegedly. I think this is important stuff.
I hear your concern.
You're correct.
And I think that, is Suluk on the call?
I am.
Sue, can you help us out here? Is it appropriate for us to have the auditor come in and address the issues that we have here in front of us? That there are some errors that can't seem to be corrected with the system, the TRIO system?
Oops, I'm sorry. Let me pull. We've got somebody trying to be admitted. And I think you'd want him maybe in. He's your husband. It's somebody just popped in. I think it probably would be appropriate once the audit is complete to ask the auditors if they would attend. And because then we'll have their letter and they could address what's in current as well as what was in the past. So we could ask them. I don't know if that's appropriate for on their end, as far as if that's something they normally do, but we could certainly ask for that.
Do you have a time frame on when we're closing in on ending the audit?
All we know is it's been a bit since we've been asked for any more information, so we're assuming that it's getting closer. But that's all we've got right now. We don't have any hard and fast dates. We want them to, so we're anxious to see that and see that finished.
Would it be appropriate to ask the auditors if they have an ETD on when they're going to complete the project?
We have, and we've been told it's in progress.
Yes, Cliff?
Karen, can we get a copy of that letter we never got?
Yes. Could we
Yeah.
have a copy of the letter that we did not receive?
Yes, we just got that this week.
It's fine,
Okay.
but that way at least we've got some history.
Okay. Does anyone? Right, well,
I think it's really important we do meet with the auditors.
I do too.
Do we know the date
Well,
of the letter?
what's the date of the letter, Sue?
I don't recall. Brenda, do you? I don't have it with me here at home.
I believe it was December 18th,
Yes, I think you're right.
Of what year?
Of 24?
2023.
24. Oh, 23, that's right.
23.
23.
I've got a little more lighthearted one to our finance director, if you wouldn't mind giving me an education on education here. And town manager too, I'd appreciate your input. The $13,600,000 that is paid to RSU I'm just kind of curious. So we're budget that, and that comes out of our town revenues and everything, I would imagine, right? So every year it's been about $13 million that is owed to the school. Is that correct?
I believe that's what it was this year. In your budget books, you'll find a tab for RSU 14, and you'll see the history of a few years.
Okay. So this is a little lighthearted, more lighthearted, and knock me back if I'm incorrect here. That $13 million that's paid annually once the school is no longer in existence, that's a huge, I mean, that's a lot of money that could possibly go back into renovations of the school.
I'm confused though, because that's to educate our children through RSU 14. That won't go away.
I understand.
Oh, okay, I thought I misunderstood you, I'm sorry.
But once the school goes away,
Mm-hmm.
we won't be having that bill anymore, is what I'm saying.
No, we still will.
We will, okay, that's why I asked
It
for
will
the
actually be
education.
larger because the new middle school will be a part of that.
Okay, so it's going to be pay to Wyndham, essentially.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Paid to the RSU,
okay.
yes.
gotcha. Thank you for the education, that was my, I want to know.
Okay. All right. I had a question about if there is a, for example, on 3316, the tickets, there's a current month balance of 260 and a year-to-date of 260, but the percentage is still 0. And there were a few other lines that were like that. Should there be a percentage built into that column?
There won't be a percentage if there isn't a budget amount. And that wasn't a budgeted figure. We just happened to collect money during the year that fit in that category. But we didn't budget for it. That's correct, isn't it, Brenda?
Yes, you'll see items that don't have budgets at all, but you'll see collections in there, and that's because there was no place to put it, so we had to create a line item for it so that it could be recorded properly.
Okay. Dennis, would you like to ask a question?
I'm just curious, Dennis Morse, Select Board and 340 Cape, I'm just curious what those items would be, how you would collect. It's fine-wise, or it's just interesting. I've never heard that statement in 3 years on the Budget Committee. What would we collect that we wouldn't have a class for or an account for?
Well, in this case, I believe they're traffic tickets. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they were. And they were probably put into a different account instead of being something more specific that was for tickets. And we're trying to get the items that come in to make more sense into for the buckets they're going into, so that it's like one of the more popular words lately is transparency, but that gives more transparency if you call something by what it really is. So we aren't just finding a miscellaneous column or a bucket rather, or anything like that to put items in. If we have revenues coming in, we want them to go where they really should be. So ongoing, there'll be a line for tickets from here on.
Does anyone have any further questions about the expense and revenue report? All set?
I have one question. I'm looking under Public Works, and there's sand under 6084, and then it shows up under 8300 as snow. Why is, I guess I don't understand why there's two entries.
Okay, so the entry, the one that's posted that doesn't have a budget, that needs to be moved up into sand. It was inadvertently paid out of that line by accident.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
gonna be a correction.
So that's gonna disappear then, right?
It is, it's gonna, yeah, that payment's gonna go up where it was supposed to be.
Okay.
And we really shouldn't use that line at all anymore. It's not a valid line to use. It was just a mistake.
So while we're on the subject of salt and sand, so that $30,000 that was budgeted in 6084 of Public Works, we have bought sand, so was that in the salt budget? Not the sand budget, or where did that come from? To pay for the
Yeah,
salt?
he predominantly buys most of his salt and sand in the spring. So the funds that you see there are gonna be expended more than likely in the spring, and even now, I think he's getting ready to make another purchase pretty soon. I gave a detailed response to you in an email prior to the meeting. I think I CC'd everyone on the response, because I did contact Nate to get details on that, on where he stood. And I did put all that information in my email.
This is the response.
And I believe you also gave us a explanation about tech as well. I'm just kind of
Yes.
going through my phone. I'm trying to bring it up here, but if you wouldn't mind just saying, so the question I had was, why is there so many line items that are very similar? Does that get confusing at all, or is that pretty? I mean, I think the response said 5500 account is for the videographers, and some accounts are touch more or less depending on the line item exactly. We have a new line item for all departments called MEPFL, which is the new state of Maine mandated paid family leave, which just began at the first year, and all employees have to pay into the state program. The 5500 account is for anything IT related or videography. I think my question was more of, with, you've got IT, then you got I.T, and then I.T network, and then I.T services, and then networks. I mean, they're all super similar. And I was looking back at last year, I think it was the same way there. There's no issues with confusion
Yeah.
on those?
Well, I'm not gonna say it doesn't get confusing. Sometimes it does. There are some areas that can probably get cleaned up as we go along. But just for the sake of sanity, I was trying not to change too much on this right now. I'd rather just get accurate numbers as fast as I can on this report. If I can find a way to make this report more clear, I will. I've been working with, her name is Brenda. She's the IT expert with the audit team, RHR Smith. And I usually consult her before I make any movements, because she has been in this system for many, many years. So at some point, in answer to your question, we probably could trim it down a little bit. But right now, just for clarity, everyone's used to seeing these lines. I don't want to start messing around with them right now.
Yeah,
It'd be a good idea.
it's my opinion not to mess with them at the moment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The only clean time to mess with them is after the last check run of the fiscal year and before you start the next fiscal year. That often is like a 1 or 2 day window at best. So, but that's really the only time where you're beginning a new fiscal year that you can cleanly make some of these changes. And tech is one of them that we want to look at.
Okay. And then going back to what we were saying, that item of snow, that's when that would probably drop off. We probably wouldn't see that drop
Right.
off beforehand.
Right.
Exactly, right.
Okay, all right, everyone all set on that for now? Oh, Peter?
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road, just a member of the community. So I've been following these discussions. Certainly, I do not have the access to all the information town government has and this committee has. I guess it's really not a question. It's more of a comment, which is as far as the concerns expressed, which seem to be substantial. I guess the question to the committee would be, given the fact that you are now in the middle of February and you're entering into budget season, and I've heard terms like trying to get the numbers as accurate as possible, you have to understand from a layman's point of view, makes me a little nervous as to, what's going to be funded, what's not going to be funded, are the numbers accurate, are we solvent, and whatever. And I guess I'm just a little bit confused as to the auditors. And this is by no means a criticism of the finance director who walked into this and inherited it and is now trying to put it back together. But the more and more that I hear this, the more convoluted it seems to get and more confusing it seems to get. And now we're talking about letters and was the selectman notified or not? And, certainly I'm not going to be the one that's going to be casting about the words of fraud, abuse, embezzlement. But all of those terms I do know are associated with numbers that don't add up in bookkeeping. So I guess what I'd ask this committee is, how do you plan on going forward, especially given the fact that as of today, you really don't have an estimate of when you're going to have those numbers. And we just heard the town manager say the best time to get the accurate numbers is the beginning of the fiscal year, which is after our town warrant and after we voted for spending money. So I guess I just would ask this committee, what's your comfort level with going forward with what the people of the town of Raymond elected you to do?
Madam Chair, may I speak?
Yes, you may.
I did not say that the best numbers are gotten in that time period. What I did say was changing the structure of the general ledger is best done at that period. It's the cleanest time to do that. It has nothing to do with whether your numbers are accurate or anything of that nature. It's if we're going to make changes to the general ledger, the time period between the last check run and the beginning of the next fiscal year is the cleanest time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then if I may speak, Madam Chair,
Yes.
as far as the numbers that you're looking at, when I say trying to get it clean, I'm talking about the year-to-date columns. I thought I expressed that when I had my first conversation. As far as what's been expended and what the budgets are, there's nothing wrong with those. The expenses have all been recorded in the system. Everything is monitored. Everything is double-checked. Sue reviews accounts payable. I review it. The assistant director reviews it, or assistant treasurer. Everybody's looking at these things. This isn't a mystery. I have no doubt in my mind, I don't see any impropriety here along those lines, and I would hate to get that message out. What I'm saying is, some of the parts of this ledger are just difficult for me to discern when I can't make it go back in time. When I came here, the new year had already started, so I can't make it zero again. So that's what I'm referring to, the year-to-date numbers, not what's been spent and what we've paid and that sort of thing. There's no impropriety at all when it comes to that.
Chair Lockwood, could I speak?
Yes, you may.
I'm going back to my recommendation that we have the auditors in. The audit does not have to be completed. I think Peter makes a very good point. It's the point that I'm concerned about. This has gone on for weeks, months. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but certainly things are very confused. And I think that if I was watching this as a citizen, I would truly wonder what was happening. And I'm wondering what's happening. And so I think that to understand the degree and kind of the issues that were inherited as they've been presented to us, the past history that has been presented tonight, that this has been a problem for some time, and which was, at least unknown to me. I don't know, maybe it's been known to everyone else. But I think it would be helpful to have them come in and talk about this. This is, once again, serious stuff. And I'm with Peter. You're heading into the budget. We're heading into the budget. I think it's important to know where we are structurally and to have confidence in our system. And I always did. And I still think it's a good system. And I just don't know what's happened. But the auditors apparently do. And so those are the people that we need to talk with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we need?
Can I make a motion
Yes,
that we have the auditors come in before we get buried in the budget season?
yes. So is your motion to ask the town manager to request the auditors come in and speak to the budget committee about the ongoing audit of the town's records?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion?
Let me just read off the dates for the budget meetings so we have an idea how kind of packed in they are, if that's okay.
Yes.
Wednesday, February 26th, Department Head number 1. Following day, Thursday, February 27th, Department Head number 2. Tuesday, March 11th, Budget Workshop. Tuesday, March 18th, Warrant Article Review Recommendations. Thursday, April 3rd, Final Warrant Approval. Tuesday, April 8th, Public Hearing number 1. Tuesday, May 13th, Public Hearing number 2. So we've got the next closest ones is next week, and they're both department head interviews. So we got department head interview 1 on Wednesday and department head interview 2.
You're not gonna be able to do them then.
Yeah.
Those are pretty intense.
Yeah. The only place that would make sense would be Tuesday, March 18th, which is a budget workshop.
How about a special meeting?
We would have to add something on. We have to request something to add on to the books for that.
Right.
Sometime between the 27th of February and March 11th.
Yeah,
I agree.
That'd be my suggestion.
Okay.
So just to kind of get that
Yep.
motion a little more specific.
Motion that the town manager get the auditors to come in and speak to us at a meeting someplace between February 27th and March 11th. How's that?
Yes.
Second that.
I suppose we have to come up with get an answer from them pretty quick, because don't you need 10 days' notice?
You're right, Chris. There's a
7.
motion on the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I wanted to continue the discussion. I was going to speak to Peter's concern that our comfort level at looking at the budget, particularly in this short time frame that we have, with the reports that we've gotten and the inaccuracies that we're seeing, and I'm not casting any blame, but I'm not comfortable. How are we as citizens to recommend pro or against anything if we don't have accurate numbers? So the auditors coming in is going to be a definite help, but there's going to be more questions after that. And my point of this discussion is, how can we get something from the town manager and the finance director that give us a higher level of comfort, so that we look at these numbers and there's something that we can put our teeth into and say, yeah, we agree with this or we don't. Peter's got a great point. I'm not comfortable, and I work with these numbers a lot. So I think the general public deserves to know as well. So I'm in favor of the motion as presented.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll take a vote, and all those in favor? Oh.
Could I just interject? There was a motion, and it was seconded, and then Cliff made a friendly amendment to that as far as the timeframe. So
Okay, there's no such thing as a friendly amendment. It has to be stated clearly, so would you like to reconsider your motion and offer a new motion with the
Okay,
amendment?
first, whoever seconded has to withdraw the second.
Withdrawn.
All right, the new motion is that we instruct the town manager to have the auditors come in and meet with us someplace between the 27th of February and the 11th of March. in a special meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to request the town manager to request the auditors to come and speak to the Budget Finance Committee? Okay, I can't see you, Don.
He's-
It's you, right? The vote is unanimous and the motion carries. Next up on the agenda is a request from the update from the staff on the town audit.
And I really already gave that update. There is no update. We will know when we get it at this point, is what we've basically been told. It's in process. But since we haven't been asked for more information recently, it's our presumption is that it's getting close to the end. So we should have it soon, but soon is definitely a relative term.
I'm just trying to understand why the town isn't able to get the information from the auditors on when they expect to be done. I'm having a hard time understanding that, a business relationship.
They aren't finished. They don't know when they will be done. They've given us several dates and they haven't hit any of them. It's taken longer because they're finding issues.
I think that's why we want to meet with them,
Right.
And I will ask them.
to find out
Okay.
what the
I
issues
said
are.
that earlier as well,
Yeah.
prior to your motion.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on that? Okay, item number 5 is discussion regarding the Public Works garage proposal.
And right now, there is no proposal that is hard and fast because the committee has not met yet. They couldn't meet in February. I couldn't get their schedules together. They're meeting on March 25th, so there won't be any update on anything to do with the garage or the committee tonight.
So the committee is meeting on March 25th.
That's correct.
Chair, can I ask a question about that?
Yes, you may.
March 25th, correct?
Yes,
So March 25th.
I believe that. I am doing that off the top, so I could have
You're-
it within a day or two.
No, you're correct. It is March 25th, 6 to 8 p.m. Our members of our committee had requested to the selectmen that be broadcasted, and I don't see it on the website. And also, the zoning boards of appeals has a meeting from 7 to 9. So
On
we're
the 25th?
yes.
Oh, that wasn't on the calendar when I set up yours. So I'll have to check with Sandy tomorrow and
I believe we're meeting.
compare
but
notes and see what we can do with that.
we-
ZBA doesn't always meet, so it's possible that date would still work, but I'm not sure we would know yet whether or not there is anything on the docket for that night for ZBA.
The meeting for the 25th's been moved up to the 12th.
Okay,
Okay.
So I
it's still
I confirm
okay,
that.
great. So it's
That happened in the last day or two.
okay.
yeah, okay, perfect.
So appreciate it. Yeah, I was looking at yesterday. I looked at the calendar,
So
and
the
so it
25th
said
should be free for this building.
great. Okay, thank you.
Chair Lockwood, may I speak?
Yes, you may.
Okay, so the committee hasn't met, and so I'm assuming, and maybe this is incorrect, because I've heard different, I guess, accounts of what's going on. The idea was for them to meet, or maybe have a series of meetings. I think the Public Works Director said, 4 or 5 meetings. And then I've heard that this particular proposal, which was defeated, soundly at the polls last year, is slated to come back as early as this year, which I find that can't be possible. I mean, I'm asking the town manager if that's
There's
possible.
there's no intent of putting it on the warrant for the annual town meeting.
Okay, that's good. And so there's going to be a deliberate process of due diligence.
Of course there is.
Well, there wasn't the last time. So I'm just, you know, you say
I won't
that,
argue the
you
point.
say that as if it's a matter of fact. It isn't. I think we have to ask that
Don,
question.
I would just caution you. Thank
Well,
you.
I'm just saying that seemed like a flippant reply to me. Maybe my counter
All right.
interaction is not proper, but that just didn't seem like a proper reply.
All right, we've talked about the proposal. And we've talked about the committee.
Are we still on the committee there? Or do
Okay.
we not get there yet?
All right, so we've decided that there is no formal proposal going to be voted on the warrants this year. So it's not coming before the town this year. Is that the correct understanding, Sue?
Yes, that's correct.
Or is it just on this town meeting?
There's no intent to put it on this coming annual town meeting for June of 2025.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Is it appropriate to ask this committee, because our recommendation was not for it last year, is it appropriate to ask this committee what some of our visions are, one of the reasons we voted it down, and what we would like to show the garage committee, some of the things that we would be looking for? I know we spelled it out pretty good, but I am on the committee, and this is not the budget finances, not dictating that garage. But it would be beneficial if I said, hey, these are some of the things that we would be interested in seeing as far as allowing this garage committee to do the best work they can and bring to the town people the best garage as possible.
I think it's appropriate for the Budget Finance Committee to discuss the proposal and what the Budget Finance Committee would like to see brought forward or as part of the discussion with that committee.
Okay, so we want to do that?
Yes.
Open it up? Okay.
Okay, we'll open it up.
So I would just ask that if you can think back to some of the reasons, and we can open it up a little bit too, of why the garage failed and what are some of the things that would be interesting saying. I can kind of start out. I would definitely be interested in having Wayne there to discuss this sprinkler. I'm allowed to call him Wayne, right?
Who is Wayne?
Wayne is the fire inspector, excuse me. One of the things that I remember from last year was confusion on sprinkling the building. And I would just like clarification on the fire inspector on what the vision is.
Okay. So the garage committee hasn't met yet.
That's right, yeah. So we'll be meeting March 25th.
All right, so who would be responsible to ask that Wayne, the fire inspector, be present to discuss the sprinkling?
I can request it. I think that we get to the first meeting.
Do you want him to come to the first meeting?
I don't think so. It's not my place to say that he needs to be there for the first meeting. I think the first meeting would probably just be us meeting and discussing what's already available. I think that's more of a later date
Later,
meeting.
down the road?
I think that would be more appropriate.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
Does anybody else want to speak on what they would be interested in seeing for the success of the committee?
I'd like to see what the committee comes up with for a proposal and then build on that. You've got some pretty good people on that committee with a whole bunch of experience, and then take a look at what it was and either add or subtract from it. I think that's a more prudent thing to do.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll hold off then?
okay, well, why don't we hold
Sure.
off then?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair Lockwood, may I speak?
Yes?
I'm I'm not sure that they have enough information. That was the problem the last time. The proper due diligence to do a project at this scale was not done. So if I were going to ask for something, I would want to see, and I'm not planning on attending these meetings, I would like to watch them on television, but I think to have the engineer come and talk about the process that they went through, the kind of analysis, space analysis, needs analysis, cost analysis, all the different things that should be done, architectural design, all these things that were not presented last time. I think before you could make any kind of reasoned judgment and recommendation to move forward, you would have to understand all those things that were never presented. And I would like to know exactly what was done and what will be reviewed before somebody makes this decision to go forward, having not done it a second time.
Okay, and it is my understanding that the engineer is going to be part of the committee.
Well, he shouldn't be.
Well, wouldn't that be the place for him to discuss all the things that you
Well,
just
not-
mentioned?
I'm saying, strictly speaking, he's not a member of the committee. He's somebody who's a consultant that speaks to the committee. And I have a great deal of faith, if it's Owens McCullough, which I believe it will be from Sebago Technics, I have a lot of faith in Owens, and so I think he would give it to us straight and tell us exactly what was done and what's been done since. And that's what's really important when you're looking at a order of magnitude expenditure for a capital improvement like this. You want to make sure that all these different pieces of analysis have been completed. And it doesn't take a year. It takes a lot of time sometimes to do this. It's a multi-year process, as evidenced here by the public safety building. And I did a public works building of this magnitude, or maybe a little greater, and that was a 5-year project. So this thing came on like gangbusters all of a sudden as a top priority need. And we didn't really see all of that kind of engineering and cost and needs analysis and all the things you typically do, even right down to the design. I know people say I've heard it said that it's just a box. It's not a box. It's more than a box. And the fire safety thing, which was very controversial, I'm with Sean on that. That's super important. You're building a long-term, major non-recurring capital asset. You want to do it right. And I'm in favor of spending the money to do what we need and to do it right. But I don't know that we know what we need, and I don't know that we have the information to do it right.
Well, that will be for the committee to explore all of that, and we have to let them get going, and then we will assess it as we get further down the road. And I did attend the select board meeting where the membership, how the committee is going to be comprised, where Owen is going to be attending the committee meetings to answer the questions that the committee has at that time. So, is there any more discussion about the garage proposal or the committee? Okay, I'll send that. All right. Next, we have discussion on the results of the select board tie vote to determine if the town will hold a town meeting to vote on the warrant articles, or if the vote will be taken by secret ballot in June. And I just wanted to offer the Budget Committee an opportunity to voice their opinion on what they would like to see, just to have that opportunity to discuss it if you'd like to, if you are for one way or the other. Would anyone like to speak to that? Do you have a personal preference?
I can go first.
Okay.
I prefer the town meeting. And the reason I do is a lot of times there's questions, last-minute questions about what people are voting on. And I believe if it's at a town meeting, people can get up and stand up and explain it. And I just think it's a better form of government than doing a secret ballot. I understand the attendance issue, but I prefer in-person town meeting.
Okay. All right, Frank?
I also would like to see an in-person town meeting. I think giving the public a chance to ask their questions and dig down into articles to find out what is really there is very important. It was brought up tonight, the amount of money we pay the school system that we are part of. But the way it's set up now, the citizens of Raymond really don't get a chance to inquire about how the school system works and how its money is being spent and how the kids of Raymond are really being served. At a public town meeting, I would expect the superintendent of schools and some of the staff of the school system would be there and would be able to answer the questions that the public might have about how the system is working. I know I spent 21 years being grilled about school budgets at town meeting, and there were town meetings where it was not very comfortable. But I'll tell you right now, when people voted, they knew what they were voting on and why they were voting on it. And I think there are a lot of items within the town budget that people would feel the same way. Now, if the town really decided they wanted to make this a big thing, that town meeting day was a big thing, we could build us up so that we would have a very large population. One of the things that they discussed at the last school board meeting was the problem with having kids at home and only one parent could go to the town meeting. I can remember when we had town meetings where we invited the children and we set up a system where the kids were being entertained during town meetings so both parents could be there. I would think our recreation department would be able to do that and do that well, either using parts of the school building here, Jordan Small School, or using the gym down at the other school. There's plenty of room to accommodate kids, and I would suspect that the that the recreation department could do that. Some group in town could put on a lunch, or we could have a dinner after. There are a lot of ways of getting people excited about going to town meeting. And I, for one, want to see us back to an open town meeting.
I am definitely an advocate to go back to the town meeting. As I said the other night, I don't know where it was, whether it was in this meeting or the selectmen's meeting. I read the warrant last year 3 times, and I still didn't know anything. And so when people say, well, we got people that know what they're voting for, they don't have a clue. They vote on the 1 or 2 items seriously that they're interested in, and everything else is, I don't know, because you don't have that background information. And your question about the school, when it's no longer, the school kind of leads the same way, Sean, that's not a slam or anything, but I mean, that kind of thinking, we won't have that school to pay for anymore. Well, no, but you're still going to educate your kids. So that kind of explanation goes a long ways when it's one-on-one and people standing around talking to each other.
And chances are, if one person has a question about something, a lot of people in the room will have the same question in their mind, just not ask it.
Yes. Can we discuss what a hybrid would potentially look like? Because I know that was discussed at the select meeting, and I was my ears kind of perked up because I know that I know it's mentioned that if you're not in person at the special town meeting, you can't vote. And if you're by Zoom, you can't vote. But if we had a meeting and it was, I forget exactly how it was phrased, but it was, I don't want to say unofficial or something like that, but it was an information to the town. This is the warrants. This is the discussion on it. People can get up and discuss it, but then go home and think about it and vote. I know that one of the committee members around my age was bringing that up for selectmen, and I kind of feel that would be the most impactful to have an understanding of what the warrants are, and then to go back and really kind of think about it instead of trying to make a decision right there.
I would think the hybrid meeting would be such that on the Saturday before the vote was taken, we would have a quasi-town meeting without a vote being taken. But people could come and we would, the select board and the budget committee would present the articles on the referendum and an open discussion on all of the articles, just like it would happen at a town meeting. And then on the following Tuesday, people would go to the polls and vote on the articles.
I really like that idea.
But the idea of having a public meeting that begins at 6 o'clock at night is not serving the purpose. There aren't that many people going to be available at 6 o'clock at night for for that type of meeting. Have it on a Saturday. Have the recreation department take care of the kids. Do everything you would to get a good-sized turnout for that meeting. Give people a chance to discuss all the articles, pro and con, and then the following week have the vote.
Because that Saturday, it would, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be broadcasted, right? It would be recorded at least?
It would be broadcast.
So-
And the idea, there's so many things going on. Well, most of the things going on, as far as sports is concerned, is going to be run by the recreation department. And I would think the recreation department could put those games and things out at a different time and a different day, so that they weren't conflicting with the ability of people to come and to have that quasi-town meeting. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get people to turn out for that, but get them out, let them get their questions answered, let them get a chance to speak on it. A lot of people come to a town meeting and before they vote on something, they change their mind because they've heard some things that they didn't realize about whatever that article was, both pro and con.
And I don't think it's our job to convince people one way or the other.
No.
I kind of feel that from sitting up here and, hey, these are it. Like, I know we make recommendations and that kind of thing. That's could sway somebody, but I think they need to hear it and then digest it.
Absolutely. So if they come on Saturday, hear the pros and cons, get their questions answered, then over the weekend they can kind of digest what they heard, and then the following Tuesday they go and they vote on the articles. You might, in fact, even get more people to turn out to vote on the articles.
The only shortcoming is, how are you going to get people? People will come on Saturday because they got to vote. If they had to vote then. There'll be a whole bunch of people, will have 1,000 other things, and that's life, and that's the reality. And you go to the effort, but the people you're trying to reach never come because, hey, I can vote on Tuesday, I don't have to know anything. That's one of the shortcomings. The other things we talk about, I love to go back to Peter's comprehensive plan. You know, you're trying to get a sense of community, and a sense of community happens by the community being together. There's a study just came out on kids and what they're losing because they're on their iPhones and everything else all the time, and people aren't talking to each other and having person-to-person contact. The study just came out. So, again, I feel very strongly, and I've said it before, that the in-person town meeting, traditional town meeting, was a well-crafted device years ago, and it still works.
Did you want to speak?
Just have a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Absolutely. But stay up there, Peter, because I'm going to say something afterwards, and I know you will chime in on it.
Yeah, Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. So I couldn't agree more with Cliff as far as what came through loud and clear from the comprehensive plan was one of the things that people were expressing, young and old, was the fact that there does not seem to be a sense of community, or that we've lost a sense of community in the town. And I don't believe I felt any closer to this town than when I attended an open town meeting. I believe the hybrid, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe the town manager can jump in on this, the idea that you're describing as far as a hybrid isn't that a public hearing? I mean, in the argument is...
It is. Any kind of hybrid like that would have to be a public hearing and then either an open town meeting vote or a secret ballot vote, one or the other. You can't mix them. They can't be, you can't have partially one, partially the other. It's not legal.
Thanks, Sue. That was my sense when I was hearing the discussion at the select board meeting, that this is extra legal. This would be something where we could get ourselves in a lot of trouble. I understand the limitations of an open town meeting, and I've heard it expressed here. So whether it's the fact that you have to be physically in attendance, you can't be on Zoom, that individuals that, let's say, are challenged mobility-wise are going to have less of an opportunity to come. Those are all arguments against the open town meeting. However, other arguments that I've heard, are not so strong. The proposal, and I voiced this at the select board meeting last when it was discussed, is that our neighbors are sometimes inhibited by showing their opinion to the public on where they think something should go or something should be done in the town. And first of all, I think it's a shame that there is that feeling. I don't doubt that there are some that feel that way and that just simply won't raise their hand or won't attend because they don't want the person sitting next to them to know how they voted. And I think that's a shame. I don't think that's the majority of people. And we can disagree and be civil, and we can disagree and let democracy actually work. And I haven't found anything closer to pure democracy than a town meeting in Maine. So I would definitely endorse that. And as far as the concerns for those few that might be at an open town meeting that would have reservations, there is a provision in the open town meeting that anyone from the floor can ask for a written ballot. If that is seconded, then there is a show of hands on the people that are in attendance. Yes, we want this particular warrant article to be a written ballot. And if the majority of people in that room say, yes, we want it as a written ballot, then that addresses a concern about what my neighbor will think. Then you can go on the rest of the meeting and everything can be a show of hands and la-di-da. But so that in itself is not a solid argument for why, people want to have a secret ballot. And it certainly, the secret ballot does not breed a sense of community. The open discussion, the back and forth, extremely important. I would say in discussing almost anything, the previous agenda item, I guess I'll just speak to that. Before any proposals to build a garage or to have architects or to have engineers or to propose a bond, I think I heard this asked at a select board meeting. Has anybody asked the people in the town if they want a building? Now, I've heard this committee say, oh, yes, we definitely need a building. We just don't like the process and the way it's gone by. And I would say, I'm not an expert enough to tell you whether we need a building or not. But I guess I'd like to be asked that first before I start getting asked, are you happy with this architecture? Or are you happy with, floating a large bond for the town? We haven't done that. I think it was one of the selectmen proposed, we could do a little pom-pom survey like we did on the comprehensive plan. And just as people are going out the door from the next meeting we have, large meeting we have, you want a new building or not? That's all. We're not asking you about money. We're not asking. We just, do you think we need a new building or not? And take a temperature of the town. That's the majority of what we did on the comprehensive plan, to get a sense of where the people wanted to go. And I think lastly, I don't in any way want to cast an aspersion on individual polling, and that one of the selectmen at the last vote, that ended up being the second time it was tied on what type of meeting we have, would be the first one to admit he's a younger guy. He's never attended a town meeting in his life, and he's voting not for it. And the argument that he made was that he asked 23 friends, that I believe what he was referring to them as they were his constituents. And what he asked them is, which would you rather have? And 20 of the 23, I believe was the number, said, we'd rather have a secret ballot. That's valid from that individual's perspective. Those are the people that voted for him. But in the whole process of the comprehensive plan, we went out of our way to look at how he asked a question. Was it a leading question? And that we survey the entire population, not just one segment, and then make my determination on that. So I was, those were not arguments that really convinced me otherwise. So all I would say, and I think people up there and in the audience have said things very eloquently, more eloquently than me, as far as what an open town meeting would bring to this town. I guess I'd lastly just say this, and I think this was brought up by someone else at one of the select board meeting discussions. What harm would there be in trying it this year? Yeah, we're not going to get, 2,000 people. I don't know if you could get 2,000 people in the gym. But are we going to get a significant representation of people that are engaged and interested and informed in the town to have a lively discussion or to ask questions about what does this warrant article really mean? And I recall Jennifer Danzig, who went around to, most recently, you probably know her fame is that she actually went out and got enough signatures to basically have some influence over the planning board and how the solar facilities were going to be buffered. And that was changed. But she did that because she couldn't get it on the warrant any other way. Planning board wasn't putting it on the warrant, so she went and she got enough voters in the town to sign a petition to say yeah. And she said even when she was doing her little pom-pom poll at one of the elections that the comprehensive plan was at, and she was just asking about the ordinance that she was opposed to as far as solar ordinance because there really wasn't appropriate buffers in her estimation being put there, and she was trying to take the temperature of the community. Most of the individuals said, oh, well, that's already on the warrant. That's already done. It's already taken care of. And it was an entirely different issue. They did not understand why she was there gathering signatures because it was a different issue and one that they did not realize because they thought it was on the warrant or the way they interpreted it was. So, I'm in agreement with Cliff as far as reading the warrant. Many times the legalese is such that you really don't know, and you've got to ask that question. What does this really mean? When you say commercial for a solar farm, do you mean the program where if I generate excess electrical current through my solar array on my roof, is that commercial? Well, I can tell you the planning board has now cleaned up that language, and it's going to be brought on the warrant if the people adopt it, and it will clarify that a little bit more. Well, that's not really commercial. It's a different category than if you just put it on your roof for your own use versus building, a 7 or 8 acre array that's going to be held by a for-profit entity. So what I would just remind everyone, and I think you guys can have some influence on it, sometimes the legalese requires how a warrant article is written. And so it can be confusing or difficult, but you can always add an explanatory, very simple at the bottom of it. Duh, this means that this is commercial and this is not. So, thank you.
Right, thank.
I spent probably 4 to 6 hours or more during the 2 times that the Comprehensive Plan Committee was at the polls, taking the temperature of the town. And I probably spoke to 400 plus people during those 2 days. What they really were expressing, from what I could gather, is the lack of community discussing things together. They were so anxious to talk about the things we were talking about. And they really felt good that they were being heard by us. And they really expressed the need to have more community by having more discussions about what's going on in our town. And I think that is a perfect example of why we need a town meeting.
Oh, I'd like to clean up my language a little bit, so I'd like to not use the word hybrid again, as I had stated. But I think if there was a secret ballot, I would like to have a public hearing. That's correct, right? public hearing. But I'm okay with that. So when I had used the word hybrid, I wasn't envisioning that we do half a vote there, then half a vote on a Tuesday. My cleaning up the language would be, I'd be interested in having a public hearing if we were to have a secret ballot. Public hearing on a Saturday, get all the information out, have the vote on the Tuesday, give the people a little bit of time to digest. That way, if people are not there, but they can still watch by Zoom, then they're getting the information, just like they would if they came to a town meeting.
Sean, what I'd just say that is that I believe the argument has been made before that the attendance at public hearings is about the same as the attendance at this committee, and it's just about the same at the attendance of a select board meeting. I would tell you that's been the, I believe, rationale behind the fact that most of the public hearings I have attended over the last 5 years are within a select board meeting. They simply have it in two parts. They have a public hearing, then they adjourn that, and then they go into their regular business. So unfortunately, as far as bringing people together, if you're going to have a public hearing at 6 o'clock in the evening on a Wednesday, followed by the select board meeting, I don't know you can expect to be seeing a whole lot more people there than are here tonight. So I think that's the argument for why, we can have public hearings. I believe this committee even discussed last year the fact that, do we even have public hearings? Well, yeah, we on issues, bond issues, the having to use the money from the TIF in order to finance the infrastructure for the solar for the municipality. Even as recently as going back and having a special town meeting to approve a change in the configuration of the backup generator for the array for the wireless and the internet. Those are all done within the context of a select board meeting. So I hear what you're saying as far as if there were to be a public hearing. It should be. It should stand alone. It should be. This is the issue. This is what we're going to decide and discuss, and all are invited. Publicize it well, and have it on a day of the week and a time of the day when the majority of people can attend.
But the thing with having a public hearing, though, if it's being broadcasted, you're right. Maybe people are not coming out. Maybe we get the same amount of people we got at the select board meeting, or this meeting. But how many times are these videos being viewed after the fact? Is our information not getting out there right at the moment, but is that allowing people to watch it on the Sunday after the kids are done with the sports or something like that? And that's not something we can say for sure. Like, you can look at the YouTube numbers, but if somebody was watching from Zoom, you can collect data on that. And of course, we've never done it that way, so we don't have any hard numbers right now. But it would be different doing it this way. We've never done it that way where we could actually look at those numbers before, so we don't have any history on it. We're now with doing these things by Zoom and then putting these things up on YouTube. I do think that people will be watching more. Maybe they don't come out, but there's a strong possibility that Sunday or that Monday that they are watching the public hearing afterwards.
All right. Is that the end of the discussion? Anybody else have anything else they want to add? Everybody else set? Okay. We are now at the point for public comment for tonight. Okay. Anybody on Zoom have public comment? Nope. Budget Finance Committee comment? Any comments from the committee?
I think we've talked. Had most of the comments already.
Right. Anybody else?
No, I do have I would like some clarification. So in the past, we were, for a budget cycle, the chair of the Budget Finance would be running those joint meetings. And my understanding is that this year we're getting an invite to the select meetings for them to run it. Is that accurate? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that is accurate.
Is there a reason why that had changed from the past, because I remember last year, I was sitting over here, and the Board of the Selectmen said to our old chair, he said, "It's your show, you run it."
That is
My
correct.
understanding, the chair of the Budget Finance Committee has always run the budget meetings. And why it was changed, I don't know, and I don't know if they have the ability to make that change.
I don't know what the
Did
ordinance.
did the select board vote to make that change, Dennis?
Absolutely not. You know from being here, though, Frank, Dennis Moore's Select Board and 340, the power in the town is the chair and the vice chair and the town manager. Those three people run the town. You heard me say that the Select Board, Nathan told everyone the Select Board told them to pick a committee. Everyone on the Select Board said they had nothing to do with it. It was the chair that told them. The chair decided that. We didn't talk about it. But either way, if it had come back to the board, they would have voted to have them set up a meeting. We just might have had say on what the committee was made up on. Because think about it. Chair says set up a meeting. He comes back with a committee. Kind of eliminated a lot of the process, which is what we had for issues in the building. Same thing with this. There was no discussion. And you all know what it is. I mean, we're not going to talk about it here, but we all know what it is. It's, they don't like to be questioned. That's the truth, and it's very simple. I think it's inappropriate, too. I think it's very disrespectful to an elected group of people who give their time, just like all the meetings at 6 o'clock, when you have publicly said last year and this year you prefer your meetings at either 6:30 or 7. They're all 6. So it speaks volumes.
Well, the
Madam Chair,
Yes, Frank.
it's my expectation that when we have our first meeting, that you intend to chair that meeting. That is our meeting. And I expect to have you in the chairman's seat.
Yes, that's my expectation as well, is that our chair run that meeting.
I am going to step away and make my comments from the podium, not from the chair seat.
I'm gonna take over.
Karen Lockwood, 139 Mountain Road in Raymond. And the Budget Finance Committee has historically run the joint meeting of the Select Board and Budget Finance Committee for the department head review so that everyone is in the same room at the same time and gets the same message. Last year, when I was voted in as the chair in the February meeting on the first department head night, Bob Goslin ran the meeting, and the Budget Finance Committee ordinance says that the officers will be elected at the first meeting following the June elections, and that was the first meeting following the June elections. I was elected as the chair, and Deanna was elected as the vice chair. Bob turned to the town manager, Sue Look, and Joe Bruno was the chair, and asked who was supposed to run the meeting, and both the town manager and the chair of the select board said that Karen was supposed to run the meeting. So to me, that is precedent setting, and we should be following the precedents that has been set. Is there any further discussion of the select board, Budget Finance comment?
One question. The Finance Committee, Budget Finance Committee was set by ordinance, is that correct?
Yes, there's an ordinance that governs
Yes.
how it
Has
is.
anybody looked at what the ordinance says? Because I'll be honest, I haven't.
I have it. I mean, I bring it up.
I have it right here.
The answer is yes. Last year.
Well, no, I know, but if it's in the ordinance, it's just another bit of cement to do it like it was done last year.
It actually isn't in the ordinance that you will chair every other meeting the way they set it up each time. That part is not detailed out. It simply describes the power of the capital improvement part and that the budget committee will present the budget at the annual town meeting. That's clear.
So I know we're not voting on anything, but how do we make ourselves very clear that my expectation and Frank's expectation is that you are the one that is going to be chairing those meetings?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Okay, then I'm just going to state it. Again, my expectation is that for Wednesday, February 26th, Thursday, February 27th, Tuesday, March 11th, Tuesday, March 18th, and I think that would be it. Those dates, my expectation is that the chair of the Budget Finance Committee be running that meeting.
That would be my expectation, too.
Mine as well.
Yes.
Okay, if there are not any more comments, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor? We are adjourned.